أيها السادة والسيدات، تخيلوا أنفسكم أمام موقف غير متوقع. الضغط كبير والقرار يجب أن يتخذ الآن. هذه هي اللحظة التي تختبر فيها القيادة الحقيقية. في هذه الكلمة الختامية سنتعرف بإذن الله معا كيف يمكن للقادة تحويل الضغوط والتحديات إلى فرص، اتخاذ القرارات الصحيحة حتى في أصعب الظروف، مستفيدين من استراتيجيات وتجارب عملية تلهم الجميع. حضورنا الكريم، الكل يعلم من هو متحدثنا القادم، وإليكم نبذة بسيطة. أحد أكثر الوجوه شهرة في عالم البقاء والمغامرات في الهواء الطلق على مستوى العالم. تشاهد برامجه التلفزيونية من قبل عدد هائل يصل إلى 2,200,000,000 شخص. هذا المقدم التلفزيوني الحائز على جائزة بافتا وجائزتي إيمي والمؤلف الأكثر مبيعاً بدأ رحلته في القوات الخاصة البريطانية قبل أن يصبح واحداً من أصغر المتسلقين الذين وصلوا إلى قمة جبل إيفرست، كما أنه أول سفير رئيسي على الإطلاق ل55 مليون شاب من الكشافة حول العالم. لكن ليس لي الحق بتقديمه، فلنرحب من ستقدمه. حضورنا الكريم، محاورته في هذه الكلمة الختامية السيدة لورا باكويل. رحبوا بها جميعاً.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our next guest is truly one of the most recognized faces of survival and outdoor adventure on the planet. His TV shows are watched by a staggering 1.2 billion people, and he has taken the likes of Barack Obama and Prime Minister Modi out into the wild. The BAFTA and double Emmy award-winning TV host and #1 best-selling author began his journey, in fact, in the British Special Forces, before becoming one of the youngest ever climbers of Mount Everest. He's also the first ever chief ambassador to 55 million young scouts worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, the incredible Bear Grylls.
السيدات والسادة, ladies and gentlemen, Bear Grylls.
Hey guys, hey. How are we all doing? Everyone good? Well done, well done. So for me, really special to be here. Thank you, Laura, also for that kind introduction. It's always nice, isn't it, to have the best side of ourselves put forward at the start. But to be honest, there is also part of me that is mindful of the truth, that actually the guy stood in front of you this afternoon is often full of nerves, you know, and I know struggle. And I've experienced many moments in my life of self-doubt as well. And I'm just mindful that watching these sort of things, it's not always like that. The music thumping, I'm a very normal person as well inside. But when I look back on so many moments, so many close shaves as well, and look at actually what has made the difference in my life, what I see are three really clear things, three clear words, if you like, that define so much of my journey. But it's been understanding how to master these three things that changed everything for me in my life. And it's this that I want to speak with you about this afternoon. So number one, first, arguably the most important word, failure. And this is where I want to start this journey with you. Stood in the rain at the foot of a windswept peak in the Welsh mountains, soaked to the skin, shivering, sick with nerves about what lay ahead over the next 11 months now. And this was day one of British Special Forces selection to try and join 21 SAS. And we were a band of some 90 recruits, or volunteers, as they used to call us. And if I'm honest, I'd never felt just so out of place. Just surrounded by these huge, muscle-bound soldiers, and I had that dreadful feeling in here that I'd volunteered for something that was just way beyond my capabilities. And the first time I tried for the SAS, after 6 months of beat up, I was failed, or returned to unit, as they used to call it. And the raw truth is that I wasn't fast enough, I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't good enough. And that truth hurt, and people often don't know that I failed Special Forces selection the first time round. We all like to gloss over our failures a little bit in our life, don't we? But the truth is my failures far outweigh my successes. Many times over, I think of the failed expeditions, failed projects, the near-death moments that definitely still come to me in the night sometimes. But here's the thing, those failures have also made me. And they've built resilience, and they've forced me to adapt and to get stronger, inside as much as outside. Because as all of us here in our lives know, there is no shortcut to our goals that somehow magically, like sideswipe, avoids failures. Doesn't exist. Failure's a doorway. It's a doorway that all of us, we have to go through at some point if we're going to succeed. And as a young soldier, I was determined to retry for the SAS, to go through that notorious selection process once more. And such a big part of me dreaded it. I dreaded the pain, the blisters, the fatigue. But I reapplied and went through the whole process again. And this time, by the end, all those many months later, from those 90 recruits, only 4 of us remained. But here's the point. Here's the interesting part. Out of the 4 of us that were still standing, 3 of us had failed at our first attempt, but we passed it second time round. In other words, without that first failure, there would have been no eventual success. And the message for me is always crystal clear. You've got to learn to embrace those harder times, those failures. Don't run from them. Look at them. Know their role. Essential, like markers, if you like. The doorways that we have to go through. Stepping stones to the dreams. But the one thing that failure isn't is the end. Really, it's the beginning. So that's the first pillar. We've got one, failure. The next, and this one shapes all of us. I'm not sure quite. We're now like building a tripod here. But this second word, this one shapes all of us in some way. And this pillar is fear. Because, as all of us know, life is scary. And sometimes we're going to face some battles. And they might be battles of confidence. or nerves. There might be battles where sometimes we really have to face some giants in our life. And those giants can be really frightening. And I'm sure everybody here knows what I'm talking about. I mean, who's faced some giants in their life? There you go. Maybe we should have said who hasn't faced some giants. Okay. I'll tell you what, who's facing a giant right now in their life, in some situation? Okay. Okay, well this is for you guys. Because it is a universal truth that whoever we are, life will test us. Might be physically, mentally, emotionally, but how we react to our time of testing determines everything. Because here's what I've learned, is that life doesn't just reward the brilliant or the talented. Life actually doesn't care that much about, I mean, I say it as a parent quietly. Who's a parent? Life doesn't care that much about our kids' exam results or what we look like. Luckily, I'm always the scruffiest. Or the letters after our name that we always like to put. Life is different. Yeah, life rewards the dogged, the quietly humble, determined, those who can walk towards the scary stuff. Not because there are no giants, but despite the giants. And after 3 years in the military, I had a moment that changed my life forever. It was a routine parachuting jump in Africa. It was getting dark. I was free-falling past 4,000 feet. Looked at the altimeter, time to pull, deploy, look up. Check that canopy is nice, but instantly see something is really wrong. And then I'm just struggling to control this thing, still falling way too fast. And then I'm suddenly too low to be able to use that reserve. And all I can do is brace for that impact. And then my world goes silent, and I remember the just blur of an African hospital, and I know I'm alive, but I can't move. And then doctors and this pain, and I'm told that my back is shattered in 3 different places. And then this blurred journey home and many months back in the UK in rehabilitation. The night terrors, always about falling, always out of control. And it might make you wonder if I have ever jumped again since then. And for those of you that know the TV shows, you know the answer. The answer is all the time, all the time, part of my life. It's a choice to embrace the difficult stuff. And don't get me wrong, I dread it. I really do. Still to this day, I dread the nights before. And then in the moment, that roar of the wind when the plane door opens, it's like, it's in here, terrible. But I know the answer to the fears. You got to face them. Don't run. Use them. Know what it feels like. Because life and experience has repeatedly shown me that when we edge towards our fears, rather than running, they often melt away. Always forward, towards the difficult. Make that fear your friend. 2 pillars of the TP. We've dealt with the failures. We're figuring out a way through the fears. Now we've got to build this 3rd one. We've got to turn both of these things into power. It's another F, and it's the fire. The fire to, you look at me like you're totally mad. What are you doing? The fire to keep moving against all the odds. The fire to hang on, to endure beyond what is normal in life. It's where the rewards are. But the question is always the same. How? How do we do that? How do we access the fire inside? Because the truth is, sometimes in life our fire gets a little hidden. Welcome to life. You know, sometimes it's just an ember. But it's always there. And the fire can change everything. When I was on Mount Everest, the mountain claimed 4 climbers' lives who had reached the top. 2 died of the cold, and 2 tragically fell to their deaths. And it's just what high mountains do. You know, they repeatedly kick the hell out of you. And they ask that question. What are you made of when you're hurting? And I'll never forget the final hours on Everest. We were at 28,000 feet. We'd been climbing now for over 55 days. It's a long time on a mountain. It's minus 40 degrees. The dark ice face of the final 2,000 feet like looms above. I can see this thing. And I'm terrified. You know, I know the next 24 hours up here is going to change my life. I know that. But I also know that after so long at high altitude, I'm weak now. Really, I know it. And mentally as well, just exhausted. And I reach a point. I'm in chest deep, powder snow, steep couloir that's just disappearing into the black. It's never ending. And every time I take a step, I keep sliding back. And I've reached a point I'm just no longer sure if I can do this. I really am not. And this voice inside keeps telling me this. And I'm slowly bowing to that voice. But remember, sometimes, like I said, an ember is all it takes. So I keep going. I make a decision. It's a decision to never give up. NGU. Write it in here and here. I keep moving. And finally, eventually that summit came. And I just remember collapsing to my knees. I think I was just a wreck. But we'd made it, and we watched the dawn rise over Tibet, and truly aware, just standing somewhere special. They call it the icy roof of the world. But even though it was icy, the truth is it was fire that got me up there. And I look back on my life, and it's this fire, this third pillar, if you like, that has been my most valuable weapon by miles. Not talent, limited. Not skills. We learn skills. Skills come and go. Knowledge. None of those things. It's resilience. And if all you take from this talk, know the power in your life, where you are right now. Know the power of unrelenting, unwavering resilience. Because it's the storms of life that we all go through that actually make us strong. And as with all dark nights, you know, sometimes you just got to hang on in there, doggedly. Hang on in there. The dawn will always come. The light always wins. And the fire, as you know, in nature, all powerful. 3 words, when mastered, can change so much in our lives. How to deal with those failures. How to overcome the fears that are part of life. and then how to harness that fire within. But there's one final element to this talk, because for all of us, reaching the summits in our lives should never be the whole story. And this final element is about being grateful and about trying along the way to be kind. And I've got over the years to climb mountains with men who have lost their legs in war. And yet they never stop smiling. You know, for all of us, look at all the good we have in our lives. And I look back, I can count, I think, a solid 20 times where I really should have died in the early, especially the early episodes of our TV show, Man vs. Wild, and many of the other ones. You know, 20 is not a number I'm particularly proud of, it's just we didn't know any better in the early days. Always bitten by snakes, falling down crevasses, pinned in rapids, avalanches, rockfalls, you name it. That time in the Costa Rican jungle when I thought it was a good idea to use a vine to lower myself off a 100-foot waterfall, and the vine wasn't quite as strong as I anticipated. All of these things, they taught me the simple lesson. Number one, don't be an idiot. And number two, always be grateful for life. And try along the way to be kind with everyone we meet. So I guess what I'm trying to say through all of these little stories, first of all, like I said at the beginning, I'm no hero. Really, I struggle often. Ask the person backstage, shaking. No stranger to fear. But I know the weapons that serve me best, and they always come from inside, not outside. So for you guys, wherever you are right now, whether you're one of those honest 4 or 5 people who put up their hand, who's facing a giant right now, or maybe you're someone here like chasing down your Everest, as we should be in life, remember, you are made amazing. You truly are. You are more incredible. You are more capable than you will ever imagine. It's how we're made. Life is about finding it, though. So stand tall. Shrug off the fears and the doubts. Own it. Know it. But above all, live, breathe, fight, and walk that NGU, never give up spirit. Thank you.
A huge thank you there to the brilliant Bear Grylls. Thank you. Absolutely fantastic. Just the dose of inspiration I think we need to start off a new year, don't you think? So thank you so much. We're now going to have a bit of a 20-minute catch-up with you, just to sort of elaborate on some of the points that you've made as well, of course. But first and foremost, of course, how are you? How are you enjoying Dubai?
You're so kind to ask. First of all, really special to be with all of you guys here. I know it's always an effort to get to through the traffic and all of that. So thank you. I appreciate it, and your honesty and positivity. I love coming to UAE. It's always a home away from home. So many friends here over the years. So nice to see you again. We've done a few things over the years.
Yeah, I saw you at COP28. I think the last time you were here.
That's right. Yeah.
Really, really good fun.
No. That wasn't. I've been tens of times since then. But yeah, COP28. That was good fun.
Last time I saw you. So I just want to pick up on some of the things that you said earlier in your presentation. And I wanted to start off essentially with what you think very much makes a good leader. Because obviously in a lot of your TV shows, you've met with some very, very high profile people, very famous ones at times, Barack Obama, Prime Minister Modi, as we mentioned earlier as well. Is there anything that you've sort of taken away from those meetings? And is there any leader in particular that's very much inspired you or surprised you at the same time?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think, first of all of us in this room are leaders. You know, whatever our role, whatever our job. You know, if we interact, if you influence and interact with people, you're a leader. You create ripples. It can be as simple as the person you get your coffee from in the morning. In our families, in our businesses, in our peer groups, we're all leaders. And I think the danger is sometimes thinking of leadership as being out there of sort of top down. And we see a lot of this in the world at the moment, of like leadership that says, look at me. Look at me. But great leadership is the opposite. Great leadership is actually look at you. Look what you can do. Look what we can do together. I want to empower you. I want to build a killer team of people that are empowered to take risks and to fail, and we're going to have each other's back, and there's going to be honesty and humility at the heart of it. And I've served with many leaders, from the military stuff to expeditions to my career since and all the TV stuff. And all of us, we know good leaders when we're under it, don't we? It stands out. We never forget the terrible ones, and we never forget the great ones. But the great ones actually are rooted in service and kindness and humility and vision and having that NGU spirit. And I think when people build you'll follow them. So I think for me, it's always summed up in that great quote that nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Actually, great leaders care about you. And it's a model the world desperately needs more of.
Completely agree. Is there a standout figure for you across your journeys then?
Well, it's been such a privilege to take so many of these world leaders into the wild. And I think the wild's always such a humbling place. It doesn't care. It doesn't care about the letters after your name, like I said. So I've loved that. But actually, if I'm really honest, I look back to my late dad, and he died far too young, but I sort of now understand the power and how rare it is to live your life well, with service at heart, and to be a good family guy first, and to still be a go-getter at work and charge things down, but not to be an ego. It's it's very rare. And I look back and I kind of actually admire him more and more. Now as a father myself, I kind of think, he actually got so much of that right. And I'm really grateful for that at a young age.
I wanted to move on to decision-making under pressure, because obviously in a lot of your adventures, you've got to make very quick, split-second decisions. So how do you manage that? How do you keep calm? Is it a matter of sort of experience? Is it reflex? Is it something that comes naturally to you? How do you manage all of that?
I think calm in the crisis is such a key role for all of us, isn't it? All of us want to be calm in the crisis. Some are maybe more naturally like that, but it's such a key skill for life. Whether you're having an argument at home, whether you're in a battle at work, whether you're in a sort of one of those crises just happens left field sometimes. But I do believe it is a muscle inside. You can't expect to be brilliant in a crisis if you never step out of that comfort zone and visit difficult places in your life. And I do think if you look at how soldiers train, or even climbers and survival stuff, it's all about putting yourself in those situations in a controllable setting. And that's training. They call it adrenal exposure. And I think it's key, that if we're never used to adrenaline and suddenly adrenaline happens, you're going to get overwhelmed by it in a street fight, whatever. These things happen and people lose all abilities to think and to process and to make good decisions. Same in business. If you're never in a crisis, you're not going to be great in a crisis. So I think as leaders, our job is to seek that out a little bit in controlled, regular things of seek it out, go into difficult places, situations. I treat speaking like that. Like I say, super nervous, but I don't run from that. I actually treat it as training time. So I think that is key. Like so much in life, you've got to kind of train and be prepared. One of my jobs, as you said, was Chief Scout. Scout motto, as you all know, be prepared. So it is key. And they were right, that original scouting founder, preparing young people for life. You've got to train for that.
I wanted to move on to trust, because obviously, when you work with lots of different people, lots of different teams, how do you create this connection, and how do you create trust between different people, especially very well-known faces at the end of the day as well? How do you instill that trust, especially when you're both knee-deep in mud, you're in crocodile-infested waters, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of adrenaline, and there's a lot around. So how do you manage that, and how do you create a bond?
I think be in it with them. You know, it's like, you know, look at Running Wild as a model. We get all these incredible guests and sports and Hollywood stars, and they don't need it. They're not coming for the money. They're not coming for the fame. You know, they're coming for the experience. They seek out that challenge. I notice that. But it is a position of trust. They're trusting me with their life, with their brand, with the experience. And I think for that, you have to kind of, that has to be earned, I suppose, over years, but also stand beside people. You know, I'm not behind going, off you go. You know, and I'm not dragging them saying, look at me. You know, it's a side-by-side journey. And I think the power in life, in businesses and teams, is to develop that culture and be willing to be vulnerable, be willing to fail a bit, take some calculated risks, share the decisions, you know, have ownership of those things together, but ultimately it's side by side and lead by example. I mean, it's, you know, you sum up life really, and that sort of relationship in 3 words: example, example, example. And, you know, we're not always going to get it right, but I think having the intention of like, just be together in it. And it's not always going to be perfect. And actually, when it goes wrong, it's kind of often those are the smile and connection moments. But you've got to be in it together.
Well, what about conflict management? Because at the end of the day, the wild very much brings out the best in people, but it also very much brings out the worst in people, I can imagine, as well. So how do you manage a difficult team member or someone that just literally does not want to do anything? There's fatigue, we've got hungry people, there are people that just don't want to do anything. How do you manage that type of person?
Yeah, well, first of all, everyone in this room has been there. You know, we've had that tricky team member and you're trying to deal with it. And it's part of life, isn't it? I think the wild brings it out super fast because everyone's great when the sun's shining. But when you're cold, hungry, scared, and you haven't slept, then you start to get to know, you know, what's going on. So I think, first of all, if you look at that process of the Special Forces story I told, you know, I think it's why it's a thorough process. Because some people are just difficult. You know, there is no magic bullet. Sometimes people are really just difficult people. And you can, I suppose, in our life as much as possible, we want to try and avoid having those sort of people in our close inner circle of teammates we're going to go and climb this mountain with, you know, or go into this jungle with. But I think beyond that, the natural just disagreements and conflicts that happen, I've learned over the years, most of it goes away when you listen. You know, I know we all know this, but it's so tempting when something's wrong, is that it triggers us to go, hold on, I've watched it, and then it's, you're not, you know, my mother always used to say 2 ears and 1 mouth, use it in proportion. Again, we all know this, but it is such a diffuser of conflict. And also, I think the humility sometimes to own stuff and apologize, even if you don't really need to apologize. I think it's such a sort of diffuser for life. But then say, but come on, we're in it. I'm sorry if I haven't handled this bit great, but like, we're in it together. Let's elevate. And there's a power to that. And also, who doesn't have a bad day? You know, I think being forgiving of that as well and not holding it against people.
And I suppose it's managing adrenaline and, you know, at the end of the day, people are terrified when they're out in the wild, and it's managing, you know, making sure that people are okay. And it goes back to trust at the end of the day, doesn't it?
True.
Yeah. So I wanted to then move on to regret. In your keynote, you very much spoke about failure. Failure is the only way. It's the only way through to success and to learn and to build character and things like that. How does that relate to regret? How are they different? And how have you managed regret? Is there anything in your life that you regret, or that you have, or maybe that you haven't done?
Yeah, I think. First of all, I don't regret the failures. It's why I start off this talk talking about the failures, because the danger of success in life, whether it's TV show or being the CEO of the business, is that the highlight reel really becomes strong, and it's like that's all we share, and you become untenable and unduplicatable for people within your organization. So I always start with failures because it's truth. I actually wear them like scars. I wear them as stripes. Like, these are where we earned our spurs. You know, so failures are different from regrets. I certainly don't regret the failures. I think I'm not one of these people who has no regrets. I actually met a world leader of a very big, powerful country the other day who said he has no regrets. I didn't pull him up on it. I just went, okay. You know, I think I have many regrets. They're always rooted in when I've been unkind in some way or said something I shouldn't have said, or tired and I was grumpy with the family, or all the other times of life. Of course, I regret those many, many times. But I kind of also unapologize in terms of I'm in for life. We're going to get things wrong. Be quick to apologize, but I'm unapologetic about we're in. It's going to be a battle, and it's going to challenge us, and we're going to have difficult moments. And I think life is such a gift. It's my parachute accident taught me that. I should have been paralyzed, and yet I can walk, and I can climb, and I can adventure, and I never take that for granted. It's a gift. I choose every day to live with a smile on my face, all in. The difficult, the messy, the failures, and even the regrets.
Sadly, we are running out of time, but I wanted to end on a more sort of fun, light-hearted question. Now, we've seen you eat a lot of horrific things in the wild. I think I've seen animal placenta, elephant dung, lots of bugs. I mean, it's horrendous. So I'm asking on behalf of the audience, I'm sure the audience would like to know this as well, but what is, in fact, the worst thing that you've eaten in the wild?
Well, first of all, it's a great note to finish on. I mean, there have been a lot of bad things over the years, I won't lie, from the snakes and the scorpions and the tarantulas to the yak eyeballs and the camel intestinal fluids, and raw goat's testicles were a bad afternoon. Probably the worst was the anus of a skunk, which, to be honest, the clue is in the 2 words. I should have been alert to that one. I was really hungry and food was in short supply. But I don't know, I've learned over the years, if you grill stuff hard enough over a fire, it's not so bad. But my point is, it's a great note to finish on. Probably the first time ever those 2 words have been uttered in this room. Again, I don't apologize for it. But I think to wrap it up with that, I would say, life again is sometimes we're going to have difficult moments, and the rewards go to those who can sometimes put those aside, do whatever's necessary, even if it's the goat's testicles or the anus of a skunk.
And if you barbecue it, it'll all taste the same. Is that right?
Barbecuing it's all going to get better. Guys, you've been amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your warmth. Laura, what a superstar.
Thank you so much. So nice to see you, and thank you so much.
Great note to end on. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.